My name is Mike Hogan. I'm with Raritan, and I'm out of St. Louis. Deltaware and Raritan are long-term partners. As I said earlier, we're more in the physical layer. Hopefully you guys kind of play in that infrastructure, that physical layer one, and because that's kind of what we're going to be talking about. If you deploy those kinds of applications, this could be interesting to you. I'm just going to, we'll talk a little bit about who we are, Raritan, and kind of the smart rack for cloud applications. I didn't coin the term smart rack. I think somebody else did. I'm kind of borrowing it for today. And then smart rack access being able to access your equipment, both server and networking based equipment, how to access those in a cloud environment, and then some questions. Pretty basic, pretty straightforward. Kind of worked on this presentation this morning, but it's an accumulation of other presentations. As I said, I'm based in St. Louis. I cover 8 states for Raritan. Minneapolis is probably my biggest state, or my biggest market. Minneapolis, St. Paul, from a customer standpoint. I've helped United Healthcare. They're one of our customers, both from some of the applications we're talking about. General Mills is a customer, FICO, Travelers Insurance, Hennepin County. We're shipping our first products to Target here. Best Buy is a long-term customer of ours. And those are just some of the name brand customers that we do business with here in the Twin Cities. Raritan's been around for about 30 years, more in the KVM access business. We're second in market share if you're familiar with Avocent. They're kind of like the market leaders. We're kind of like right below them. As they continue to be bought and not have an identity in the marketplace, being bought and sold as Emerson has bought and sold them, and who knows where they're at. R&D and their product development is kind of taking a hit. It's given us an opportunity to really come in and win some of their customers. IDC says the access market is going like this. We're kind of steady and still in the positive growth in that market. Over the last, we're a global company. We recently were purchased by Legrand. We're a brand of Legrand now, and if you're familiar with Legrand, they do Ortronics, cabling, connectivity. They own Cable Fill, Cables to Go. They own a number of other name brand products in the consumer product standpoint you find at Lowe's. They're a $5 billion company based in France. We are and will continue to be kind of they're layering more and more products. The vision is that because our products are a little bit more technical in nature, not a commodity based, we'll be layered with more and more of their products and solutions, which I hope to see here. About 8 years ago, as the access market was kind of being forecasted in decline, we got into the power business. And what I mean by power is rack power, cabinet power, and have done pretty well there. We're third in market share, APC, ServerTech, and then us. We're kind of like 1 and 2. We leapfrog ServerTech, they leapfrog us in market share. But we do, the companies that I mentioned earlier are all power customers. And I'll talk a little bit more about that and why they do that. We also have management platforms, software management platforms, tools that give you dashboards for both access, KVM, and serial console access, and also a dashboard, single sign-on for power management. And all those are kind of relevant in the cloud space, both if it's a hybrid cloud or if it's just a simple enterprise, I shouldn't say simple enterprise data center, but an enterprise data center. Again, just some of the out-of-band access again, your server goes down or your switch goes down, how do you access it? In a cloud environment, hey, Mr. Cloud Provider, Mr. Service Provider, I need you to go walk up and reboot that device. I'm sorry, you don't have a service contract with us. We're charging you a premium price to go do that. Well, the KVM access, out-of-band access, will give you access to that device, allowing you to get command line interface if you need to into your network. I mentioned the KVM access. Again, a number of different products. We also do AV over IP, a lot of TV and small TV broadcasting type environments using our KVM access, where you have a producer who's sitting at a behind the scenes, if you will, and he's tossing out or she's tossing out screens to the on-air personalities for AV. And again, we recently spun off this software company, but Sunbird is a DSIM software where we have the tools to manage power and access. Sunbird actually will bring those two together and interface with a change management system within the hierarchy structure of your change management, which I believe you guys are familiar with, right? Because that's what's driving, thank goodness, a lot of our budgets, because people want that workflow reduced, collapsed, right? And they want change management to affect all your physical environments logically and physically. But the Sunbird software is kind of that hierarchy that will interface with your change management, and we can talk a little bit about that if you need to go there. But just some of we put Wi-Fi on our PDUs if people want Wi-Fi, high density PDUs, rack power. When I say PDU, I mean rack power, cabinet power. Highly redundant PDUs. These are just some of our customers. The ones locally are kind of at the top. Most of the other companies are very high-tech type companies, and they kind of come to us and say, hey, I want to do this, can you guys do it? We basically give them that ability. We've got some great resources to do that. And as we show down here, we can do lots of things in color. But basically, essentially from a cloud application or cloud standpoint, we're gonna reduce your cost to deploy your assets. Bottom line, and we have what we think is a complete set of tools to do that. So those are the takeaways. So everything I'm going to talk about is how you can drive down your cost, right, to deploy assets in a cloud environment. Mostly if those are your assets. In a cloud environment, as you guys know, right, as some of you guys will know, cloud means, hey, I'm going out and I'm grabbing some computing or some capacity or some storage, right? This is if you own those assets, right? More so than what you would do is if it was just a service, you were just going out, buying some computing and some capacity somewhere. The enabling of our smart rack or an intelligent rack this is just a sample PDU, but essentially this is a controller, if you will, standard across all of Raritan's solutions. And what it does, it's a very robust controller that allows you to do things within that rack, within that smart rack, or makes the rack smart, however you want to put it. But this is basically what we're talking about. It enables you to do a lot of different things within the rack. So again, if it's an enclosed rack or a two-post cabinet, we're installed in two-post racks or four-post, whatever your application is. Most cloud applications, if you're using your own hardware, is probably in an enclosure, right, in a cabinet with a door lock, or in a cage. But basically, from a PDU standpoint, these are some of the bullets, right, that again from our product set that are available to you as you think about deploying assets out into a service provider or an ISP or a colo environment. You want to be able to power outlets, cycle power on your outlets, right? Because for obvious reasons, a device gets hung up, and if you don't want to call the service provider to go out and reboot that device, or roll a truck yourself. Having that feature within your intelligent power strip is a nice feature to have. Dual network ports. This unit doesn't have it, but the ones that are coming off the production line this quarter are going to have 2 networking ports. Some people want to be able to have one group manage simple, hey, what's my power look like? Other people want full management of the device, including managing temperature and all your environmentals, as well as physical access to that cabinet. So dual networking ports give you that flexibility of having some extra features within the rack. Being able to daisy chain, as you guys know, ports are a premium, right? In an environment like that, anywhere, right? You're able to come off of a feature port on this and daisy chain up to 8 of these PDUs in a row to reduce your port counts or your management port counts. We also give what we're seeing a lot today. Probably a big driver. It's kind of where the transition's happening now. Is that a lot the old way of doing power of people charging you if you had physical assets there was the circuit, right? And how many racks. So they gave you a 30 amp circuit or a 3-phase circuit or whatever that power. That's what you paid for, right? But then you go and a year later and you're like, man, I'm only using 5% of that. I'm only using 10% of that. Why are we paying for this 30 amp 3-phase circuit? So a lot of ISPs or service providers are also coming back saying, well, we understand, we see you're only using 10%. Let's start charging you by your actual usage of power. So they say, we're going to give you a report every month and we're going to charge you for your power based on your actual usage. So you get a bill and the bill comes in, you're like, holy cow, we're using a lot more than we even thought, right? Having the ability of being able to manage right from the PDU your kilowatt hours of your actual energy usage, and then being able to just kind of audit the audit, if you will. Having that ability is a nice feature to have within your rack. Again, when I said in the first screen, right, we're going to help reduce your cost, right? And that is a true cost that you will or could be or have seen even associated with deploying assets. Environmental and security. Obviously environmentals are important, right? You need to make sure that rack doesn't get too hot, and you need to make sure that the rack is secure. If it's in a single rack and there's other customers around that rack, you need to limit the access or have real access, real security at physical access, right? Our PDUs and this controller will give you that ability. The other thing is we have a USB port feature on this PDU that allows you to deploy lots of PDUs at once. If you're charged by integration cost out by the ISP, they'll charge you 15 minutes to a half hour to configure this PDU. We have a feature that utilizes a USB flash drive. After it's configured in a spreadsheet, you basically walk up to the PDU and it flashes it within seconds without a network being there, and reduces that cost for integration and deployment of those assets, right? And then automate asset tracking. FICO, for example, they're in about 12 data centers globally, 10, 15 racks, and they have to do a physical audit. They have a team that just basically keeps traveling, right? That does nothing but physical audits. Having the ability of automating assets and automating physical audits. Some you can't get away from for governance and compliance requirements, but you can reduce those, and we can do that. We've got a nice feature associated with that as well. Yeah. So what we have is it's a good segue into the next slide. So you have door access from the PDU, right? One single network drop can give you all these capabilities. It's a door handle, right? That connects to a little block, and that little block interfaces with your feature port on this. So it's delivering power to this and your network, right? Versus running a separate network and finding a separate outlet, right? When you go to your server guys and they configure a PDU and they don't give you any extra outlets and you need to run a separate power source for this door, that becomes a pain, right? It slows you down, and it could potentially stop you from deploying a solution like this. This will actually utilize the PDU to deliver the network and the power to that door handle. So the way that this would work is you won't need a key actually, but there's a key feature here in case that you lose power, right? But you swipe going into your cage, and then you whatever your rights are, if you have rights to rack 3 and 6, those will light up. So you're only able to access the front and the rear doors, and you can have rights that only give you front access or rear access or both. So you would have a door. You would have a card access. There are some customers that will actually do card access and door access and this handle in the same rack, right? And this is coming off of the feature port on this. The other thing I mentioned is asset management. This is an asset management strip that's magnetic, and it basically, you build it based on the height of your rack up to a 54U rack. It's got magnetic, it's got a magnet, right, that allows it to just firmly fit it and snap into place. As your asset comes into the door, right, and it's being unboxed, you're attaching an asset tag to that asset. It could be a chassis with blades in it, right? Or it could be a flat 2U, 1U server or storage or whatever. You scan that into your asset system. As the asset moves through and is installed into this rack, this little magnet says that this asset is now in this rack at this U level, at this 1U level. If this asset is a 10U, for example, it'll tell you this has some characteristics in it, and you basically are just, so if that asset is physically pulled out or this is cut, it automatically tells you that the asset has been removed or no longer exists in the rack. So again, that's all being driven, from the network port here. You can see why we added another network port on this, right? So you have asset management, an automated asset management solution. eBay doesn't do any physical audits anymore in their data centers. So, and this was designed for eBay. So sensors, you have temperature, humidity, environmentals, air, moisture. You got airflow between racks. If you're in you have a high density rack that is that you're fighting with the service provider because it's just not getting cool enough for you, right? You can actually put a air sensor to show what your air pressure is from the front and the rear of the rack. You can do a dry contact, so you can do. I was talking to someone earlier, and they were using a simple door open, door close for network closets. Somebody opens a door and he just has a log, and he's logging that as versus going the whole door access. He just uses a dry contact. Again, all being driven from the PDU. Door access management, and then physical access, logical KVM access or serial can be connected to the PDU, but a lot of people keep them separate. So again, we're kind of enabling this whole smart rack theme, as you can see. These are some of the this is from the Power IQ is a piece of software. It's a aggregate. It basically will take all of your PDUs. It could be an individual location, or it could be multiple locations, and basically aggregates all of your power and tells you this is my UPS capacity. I'm at this is a small UPS, probably an APC UPS. Where I'm almost at capacity on that APC UPS. Gives me, again, one dashboard look. I've got green is good, yellow is I got a potential issue. Is it a power issue or is it an environmental issue? And then I know I need to reach out and basically find out what the problem is. Red means I've got a critical alarm. I'm either over power, I've got a temperature that reaches a threshold that is critical for the environment. A lot of people track PUE, which is kind of like the index to tell you how efficient your power is. And this measures PUE. Environmental sensors, this tells you kind of in this envelope I want my racks to be in. I've got 2 racks that are outside that norm. Again, can be done up here as well, but this is just another look at that. This, for example, United Health Group is managing our PDUs. They used to use Geist, so they're managing us in Geist. They're managing APC UPSs, about 1,200 of them in remote locations. They're doing a Schneider branch circuit monitoring. If you guys are familiar with branch circuit monitoring at the big floor PDUs with all the circuits like your panel at home, tying that into this as well. There's probably about 5,000 data points there, but it's vendor agnostic, so it doesn't matter what PDU you're using or what device you're using. It can aggregate and flow up to this Power IQ dashboard. Again, just another visual. I actually probably created this on the fly after 5 minutes of training. It's pretty straightforward. Gathering the data and setting up all your devices, that's a different story. We'll auto-discover all your Raritan devices. Anything that's SNMP enabled can be managed here, even if it's not, right? How much time do I have? What's my... 8 minutes? Cool. I'm good. Then you guys are falling asleep. That's good. So the other piece to this is, so that's the smart rack, right? And power and environmental management we just kind of talked about. Access management is the other piece, right? That's important when you're deploying assets remotely, right? Basically we've been doing it for forever. We think we do it real well. I'm just going to pull all these up here. The solutions that we have that for example, the serial console, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with serial console switches. This gives you, like Cisco, for example, F5, some of your firewalls, you cannot get access, you can only access them through a serial connection, right? This command center, or I should say this SX2, our serial console, gives you access to that. So if your device if your network switch, either your edge, if you're on the edge or your core, remote core needs help, this will give you access to that core, right? This can be out of band. You can have a modem, a POTS through a POTS line. You can go external with a cellular, 3G or 4G. We're pretty proud of this unit because you don't need any rollover cables. You can just use standard RJ45 type cabling for serial. DTC, DCE. It's got dual power, so if you've got failover for power, dual network, so if a network fails, you can go out 2 disparate networks in it. We go as low as a 4 port up to a 48 port, I believe. What else can I say about it? IPv6. If you got any questions on that, I've got a data sheet I can send you. But so that's the SX, right? Again, serial, think serial, right? And then the KVM basically is what you're going to be doing for your servers. So if you need to get into the server, this gives you your keyboard, mouse, video as if you were standing in front of that device. Again, it's going to save you time and energy from truck rolling, right, or asking someone to go in and help me. You can get those in any different flavors. Again, dual power, dual network. If you need high-end security, there's high-end security available in the platform. We have a combination unit as well, 4 ports of serial and 4 of KVM, or 8. So if you've got remote locations with a small infrastructure, a couple cabinets, excellent. That's all that Best Buy uses in their stores, is that combo unit. Simple analog switches, right? No KVM, no network capabilities. These are in a lab if you're doing imaging. If you're setting up computers, either in either for individual users or servers, right? To deploy in a data center. A lot of people have these analog devices to go and just send media up there and just load OSs or applications. And then we have a host of different interface devices, keyboard. The other thing that we do, like I mentioned, Power IQ, right, is the dashboard for power. We have another piece of software that manages the access infrastructure called Command Center. It's a gateway that is an aggregate for all of your access platforms. It could be us, it could be third parties, it could be ILO, DRAC, all of your different flavors of management platforms. And what the Command Center does is that you've got a number of engineers and technicians that are supporting these devices, a host of devices, and you have to manage every one of their logins, right, for every device. This gives you a single sign-on. So if one user has access to one network with X amount of ports on it, he just has, he doesn't have to re-log in. He stays within this environment, all kind of managed by this Command Center, your hierarchy. So offers 2-factor authentication, which a lot of people are being pushed to today. So that is available as well. We have a free 16-node license of Command Center if you want to test that out. We have, our website's pretty good. We've got some great online tools for that, for both our power solutions and our access products. If you have a project that you're working on, both power or access, let us know, and would be happy to send you a demo, an evaluation unit. Try not to ask me for the 48-port, $10,000, SX. I don't think it's 10K actually. It lists for 10, maybe 8. I don't know. But we'll be happy to provide you guys sample and demo equipment as you guys need to. As well as software, if you guys need to test out some software. I've got an SE out of Texas, and I keep him busy throughout the Midwest, but he's available to come on site as well and to help if you guys need help and assistance with any of your projects. Do you guys have any questions at all? I'm glad that I was pretty clear then. Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate you. And you guys are welcome to come by the table. I can scan you and we can send you information that you don't want.